What up, nation? Welcome to the first edition, at least for the new season, of the NBA DFS Wise stream. CK013 here. You can find me on Twitter at CK_013. Joined by the GOAT, the true OG, Paulie D. You can find on Twitter at Paulie with 8 Ds. But today, we are not talking about the NFL. We will be later tonight. But right now, we're here to talk about some NBA, man. Preseason starts off on Friday. Decided to come through, drop a little stream action, talk some NBA. I know Paulie's fiending for some NBA action. We were having a really, really awesome NBA season, and we did get the bubble to finish it out, but we were really on pace to have probably our best season to date last year before the coronavirus madness hit. And I know you and I have both been kind of licking our chops, and as well as a lot of the WiseTake Nation out there to get back at it. So Paulie, appreciate you hopping on with us and talking some preseason, man.
Oh yeah, for sure. NBA started off, really well. The bubble, just there's not a ton of games going, so we made the best of it. I think I had a couple pops in it, but NBA's always been one of our better sports, and I think getting a jumping on these preseason games gives you an edge in like the first few weeks of the season. You get there's just no better way than to get some action on a game to make you interested and pay attention. And the NBA has so many changes. There's guys on new teams, coaches on new teams, so there's just a lot to absorb. This is like a good, 9-day period of games and ways to get familiar with the teams, and then we're going to be off to the regular season, and away we go. So I'm just pretty much treating this as if it is the regular season starting today.
Yeah, I don't disagree in that at all. I think we know that they were shortening the preseason last year, and this year they're obviously going to keep it real short. I mean, there are players who just played a few months ago in the NBA Finals and the playoffs and in the bubble. So, I think it's going to be a unique season. We have COVID running wild across America right now. It is like the numbers are going up and all that. So we've seen what it's done to the NFL. We had a late scratch even in the most recent game, right? The Ravens game. Des Bryant was late scratched. So you can imagine what NBA is going to be like. But that's what we're here for. We're here to help the nation do that dirty. We're going to debut tomorrow for the NBA preseason slate. We will be debuting Paulie's NBA DFS fast break sheet. I'm going to show you a little preview of it. It's cleared out, but you can see the basis of what it looks like. For those of you subscribed to WiseTake.com, you'll get access to this for the rest of the preseason. And, of course, when the regular season hits, you'll get access to projections, our cheat sheets, the articles, and, of course, this, which we plan to be one of our featured pieces as far as the written content goes, the NBA Fast Break.
Yeah, and it's designed for the guy that can't sit through the whole stream. You're coming home from work, you got family, things to tend to. The sheet is, free to quickly on builds, a couple teams or even MME, but it'll give you a good brief synopsis on this, like how we're it, and hopefully it's helpful to you guys.
Yep, 100% agree. At the end of this stream, we'll go ahead and go through, give you guys a little preview of what the sheet looks like. And again, the sheet will be debuting on Friday. So the actual NBA slate will be debuting the sheet. Excited about that as well. In the meantime, this is preseason, so it's a little bit different than what we're used to on FanDuel. I think you were telling me, Paulie, everybody's $100 or some shit like that. Everybody's the same price. On DraftKings, they went with a traditional format, but we have to remember that raw points are very important in the preseason, and the biggest factor is determining or figuring out your best guess on how many minutes you think people are going to play. I know Paulie's been doing some research like a madman last night, so I'm definitely curious to hear what you got to say on the preseason slate. Going into this, are there any overall thoughts you wanted to get out the way before we go in?
Yeah. So every team is going to play between 2 or 4 preseason games, with the bulk of the teams getting 3. All right, that is not much. I think the basic, DFS tout is just going to say, all right, let me see what this team did last year in their first preseason game and assume you're going to get the same. And I did that too. I mean that's where you start. But like so many teams have changed coaches, which means that pretty much is out the window. Also, last year we had like 6 to 8 preseason games. This year it's 3. So like just because the coach played his team, his starters 15 minutes last year in the first game, a little bit different story. You want to at least assume like 10 to 15, maybe 20% more in this game one of this year's preseason, considering how few games we go and like, take into consideration the age and like career status of certain players, like certain studs, like Kawhi Leonard and LeBron, who happen to be on this slate, I would expect don't play. But guys that are younger, like a Trey Young, coming into his third year in the league, like I don't see why he wouldn't get a ton of minutes, considering they only got 3 games to get ready, and this team's trying to make a playoff push. So, like, you almost have to kind of common sense. Like, if I was the coach of this team, what would I do? And sometimes that could be dangerous, but there's not much time. These teams got to get ready. And outside of someone like the premier studs who don't really need preseason games, I'm expecting the teams to be more aggressive than they were last year.
I also think just to add to that, I also think that we should take into consideration what teams were not in the bubble, or what teams, at least were not in the playoffs, because those teams haven't played basketball in a long time. The New York Knicks, the Atlanta Hawks, like these teams haven't played basketball in a long time. So I would think that on the one hand, you could say, well, that means they may be more out of shape and people may be reluctant to play them more. On the other hand, I think you could look at it like, well, these guys need to practice because we're about to start a season soon. If we had a longer preseason, then I would expect them to be kind of dragged out. But being that the preseason is so short, I think we're going to see these teams specifically play their guys and really like see what they have. We have coaching changes. Obviously, last year we had we'll get to that game, but D'Antoni, we knew his patterns were throughout all the preseason, pretty much played his guys. Well, he's not there anymore. So there's a lot of different things to get into. We're going to start things off now with the Orlando Magic, Atlanta Hawks. Paulie, talk to me.
Yeah. Yeah, so Orlando, same coach as last year, basically the same roster. They drafted Cole Anthony in the first round, and that's really it. Maybe they dropped off like a backup point guard, stuff like that, but it's essentially the same team. Uh, there are guys already out for Orlando. I believe Al-Farouq Aminu is not going to be there. I don't think Jonathan Isaac plays, but I'm not certain about that one. Terrence Ross, I also saw, was listed as day-to-day. So, right now we don't have much of the news. There's a couple pieces. As we get to tomorrow, you'll refer to the sheet and see um, how many bodies these teams have. It's going to be big to kind of get a guess as to how many minutes guys are going to play. But we're already starting off Orlando with about 3 guys not there.
Right.
And
Real quick before you continue, I can confirm that Terrence Ross and Isaac and Aminu are all out. They're not playing in the preseason game.
okay, yep. All right, so that's 3. Outside of Aminu, who was out all last year, 2 guys that we would assume would have gotten a lot of minutes if they were there. So, um, a team against Atlanta, we like. Atlanta's terrible defensively. Maybe a little bit better with the addition of Clint Capella down low, but still like guys like Trey Young and Bogdan Bogdanovic, Kevin Herter, not known for their defense. And Orlando was actually tough but slow last year, getting paced up. Um, Bolts, they got rid of. I can't remember the backup point guard's name off the top of my head, but they got rid of that guy who
August?
was kind of like he used to, Augustine,
August.
DJ Augustine. They got rid of Augustine. And, now it's just Markelle Fultz and then Michael Carter Williams. And then this guy, Cole Anthony, I guess, is the replacement for Augustine. But I've heard he may play some off the ball. But Fultz is the guy that, like, Orlando, all their, beat writers are, like, expecting to take, like, another big step. He had big usage last year. His price is low. And I should have mentioned, FanDuel, everybody's $100 salary. So there is no salary cap on FanDuel, they've got the bigger tournaments. DraftKings went a little bit smaller. It's only like a 7,000-man contest, and it's $15. Orlando FanDuel was nice, $4.44, like 20K up top, big GPP. And I don't think the salaries really matter. I think on DraftKings, there could be teams where you leave a lot of the money on the table anyway. So I plan to probably play the bulk of my stuff on FanDuel because of the more money up top. Anyway, so Markel Fultz, I like. Vucevic is going to be one of the higher raw point ceiling kind of studs on the slate, with a lot of the other guys I'm anticipating being out. With no Isaac there, Aaron Gordon is fine. This is a contract year for Evan Fournier, and with no Terrence Ross as direct backup, he could see some additional minutes. As I mentioned, Cole Anthony's a point guard they're very excited about. Um, and that's essentially it. Like Mo Bamba, if you need the value, if just left with 4K in your last spot, he's a high point per minute guy that I think Orlando's gonna want to see what he's got this year. It's his third year there now. He's always like an injury risk kind of guy, but um, extremely talented as well. So he's a guy that I don't mind adding in his value because of the high point per dollar, but it's really only going to work out if you're like maxed out on salary. If you've got a ton of money on the table, there's going to be guys with just higher raw point ceilings.
Yeah, it looks like Mobamba's not. From what I see, he's anticipated to be out as well. I guess he hasn't fully recovered from his COVID symptoms. So I think in that sense, like we're talking about Vooch, that kind of leaves you with Kem Birch as another potential value play at 4,300. But I'm with you. I think I stick with the regulars here. Vooch really took the team on his back. I don't know. That's the only thing I'm worried about. Is his back sore from carrying the team on it last year? But with Isaac out, we have seen Gordon in the past play a little bit more aggressively. We've seen him get more four reps, get closer to the basket. They've depended on him more when Vooch is off the court. So definitely Isaac being out is even though we know he missed some time last year, that's essentially what we would expect to happen. I heard the same thing about Fultz though, man. I keep seeing his picture everywhere. I mean, I'm not the biggest Magic fan, but that's the one of the bigger talks I hear coming out of Orlando is Markel Fultz, and they're talking about the resurgence. I'm like, resurgence? Where was the initial?
Yeah.
To be resurged, don't you need some? You know what I'm saying? Like, wasn't there once like Derrick Rose? That's like a resurgence, right? He was the MVP. Yeah. He was like whatever. People thought he was crazy because he left and went to when he was with New York. He just left and went home one day. And then he resurged and was like, no, he's back to a beast. He's a fantasy beast. That's all that we care about. He's the man. Where's Markel Fultz ever? Like, where was he in the first place to be a resurgence?
Surge. Where was the first initial
what was
surge?
The initial, like coronavirus? This is a resurge, right? Where was, there was never a first one with Markel Fultz. So, but shout out to Markel, man. He won us some money last year. He showed a lot of upside last year. Took a big step forward. All right, Atlanta. I mean, I know I had asked you who should I put on the cover of this video, and you had mentioned Trae Young. So I'm curious to hear your take on Young and the rest of the Hawks.
Yeah. So, Trae NBA in points per minute on like the amount of points he scored versus divided by the minutes that he played until when he got hurt. A lot of new faces on this team. They, want to make a serious push into the playoffs this year. They want to be taken seriously. They went out and got Clint Capella last year. He has not played yet with them, so he's supposedly fully healthy, looking really good in practice. I would think that these guys coaches this year, same as the last 2 years. They played into the mid-20s, their starters last year, and I think we could see them play close to 30 minutes this year. It's a very young team, with the exception of I don't even know if there is an exception. Even Danilo Gallinari is young, so everybody's young. I don't know of anybody out for this team, but again, it was still kind of too far away. And just so many new pieces. You got Clint Capella new to the team, Danilo Gallinari new to the team, Bogdan Bogdanovic new to the team, Rajon Rondo new to the team. There's an old guy. Don't expect Rajon to play a ton, but the addition of Bogdan, Danilo, and Clint Capella, I think, are just going to boost Trae Young's numbers all around. Like, he's going to get guys that can hit shots from the outside, right? Danilo and Kevin Huerter's not a bad shooter. Cam Reddish, so as he penetrates, he's going to have guys that kick. I think his assist totals go up. He was an impressive rebounder. He's a triple-double kind of threat. And then with Clint Capella out there, you got a pick-and-roll guy for him. They didn't have a real center last year, except I guess when Collins would get some time at the 5, but he also spent time on the disabled list. Um, so I think that Capella's going to open up a lot of space for Trae Young to get into the hole or shoot from outside. High usage guy and kind of contributing across all statistics. Unfortunately, a lot of studs are not going to be there. I think he'll be pretty popular by the time this thing's said and done. And he's probably my favorite stud on the slate. And then I like the idea of pairing him with a Clint Capella at 5'6". I think more of the public would go to John Collins because it's like what we've been doing with them. We like pairing them, but I think Clint Capella is going to kind of hurt Collins' rebound and scoring totals, and the $2,000 discount leads me to like Capella. But if you build enough teams, I would have some Collins too. Gallinari is expected to come off the bench. Um, he's not the guy that I would really want to get a ton of, but at 4.9, he could probably get you to 5x if he gets enough time. Just the coming off the bench thing is tough. Like a lot of times in these first kind of preseason games, if the game is close and both teams, both coaches may just kind of let their guys go. But if the game gets out of hand, it's very likely that they just throw out their bench guys like on the last run, which would be Gallinari's. So like, there's a chance he could lose one rotation. So it's just the starters on Atlanta that I really want to look at. Bogdan Bogdanovic expected to start at 4.8. Love that price. And that is probably the extent. Trae Young, Clint Capella, Bogdan Bogdanovic. But I like this team a lot all season long, and everybody that they're playing I'm going to like always as well.
Yeah, they got a lot of new additions. Like we know they got Capella last year. Capella didn't really play, right? Plantar fasciitis. He claims he's fully healthy, though. We've seen athletes say that, and they are for the first month or two, and then they go bye. You got Gallinari, who's expected to back up John Collins. You've got Bogdanovic really kind of taking over that 2 and 3 role with Cam Reddish and DeAndre Hunter, and those guys were all going back and forth with. And so I'm curious to see what this means for Trae Young's minutes. I think I agree with you in that I think he has help with assist totals, but I wonder if not for the preseason. I know we're talking about preseason now. I do like Trae Young for the preseason. He's itching. This guy's got to be itching to play. He's another one that just didn't. When's the last time he played basketball? You know what I mean? Like it's one of those situations. So I do like Trae Young. On even on DraftKings where it's 8,500. But in the season long approach, I expect the Hawks to win some games, man. Like they have more talent here. Like they do. It's not necessarily do I expect them to be great? No, but I expect them to win games. Whereas last year they were one of the, weaker teams in the league. But they have like veteran presence with guys like Gallo there. And I'm curious to see how they really play this. Bogdanovic, they went out and got him, offered him 72 mil over 4 years, some shit like that. And the Kings couldn't even match it. So it was just, there's got to be a reason they wouldn't got him. They got Rondo on the bench. Chris Dunn is not going to play, which helps for preseason purposes. It sounds like he's not cleared for contact yet, so I doubt he actually plays. He's questionable, I should say that. But yeah, definitely a team to keep an eye on going forward. Let's move on to another team that I think I'm extremely excited for the season outlook as far as fantasy goes for us Knicks fans, bro. We're talking about the Knicks and the Pistons. Obviously, Tom Thibodeau, new coach of the New York Knicks. We'll start with the Knicks first.
Really excited about the Knicks. Tibbs, fantasy, glory, mad minutes for the guys that he decides to anoint as starters. Not a ton of changes. We drafted Obi Toppin or expected him to start at 3, which is interesting. Austin Rivers is there. He's questionable, I believe. Alec Burks we scooped up. Nerlens Noel. Some changes, but nothing like none of those guys I don't expect to start outside of the draft pick Obi Toppin. But the last time Tibbs was in Minnesota, he played his guys in the first preseason game close to 25 minutes. And this is a guy who's played starters, more minutes than most people thought they should his whole career. So we want to be aggressive with the Knicks early and often. They're expected to play faster. And they've got some real fantasy-friendly players on this team. Elf is a triple-double threat waiting to happen. Taking on a weak Detroit Pistons team, and the Knicks should do well here. Julius Randle, big. There's no more Drummond in Detroit. Mitchell Robinson is a freak who can get a triple-double with blocks in a game. I predicted that will happen this year. He's 4'9". He's going to start with an Andre Drummondless Detroit Pistons. RJ Barrett at 4'7", I like a ton. I think that these Knicks are going to play around 30 minutes as well. At 4'7", he's capable of taking double-digit shots, getting rebounds, getting steals. And, a lot of times we see guys kind of make that leap in their second year. That's what this is. A lot of the guys on the Knicks bench are like role player specialists, like Nerlens Noel, big. He's a good point per minute guy, but you know, that's the stuff that like if you need a last guy into a lineup, sure, take a high point per minute guy like a Nerlens Noel if that's all you got left, 4-4, or Dennis Smith Jr. 4-3, Kevin Knox. Because one or two of these guys may get some run. They may get some run where they're the only, capable guy on like a second unit to close out a game. But with 3 or 4 games max, like I'm expecting these teams to give you pretty solid run, and Tibbs is known for doing that. Mitchell Robinson, RJ Barrett, because of their price, I like the most, but also Julius Randle and Elf are in play. As much kind of question is like, I really like stacking on this. Like, you make a team where the coach says, "I'm just treating this as a regular season game," and they play close to 40 minutes, and like you're gonna. So I like the idea of keep stacking, and like I said, if the games are close, the other coach, even though he planned to only go 25, he may let them kind of finish out a quarter and see how these guys respond and yada yada. So I like team stacking individual, because like that's the best. If like you get the Knicks playing 35 minutes against the Detroit second unit, the second half of the game, and they kind of explode, or a full, we just kind of getting competitive and matching what the other coach does. So I like the idea of just 3 or 4 guys from the same team, even maybe 5 on DraftKings. But that's it from me.
Yeah, I mean, I expect Tibbs to play the young guys especially a lot. I think Randall is worth a shot because I think on Tibbs' offenses, he's so defensive oriented and defensive minded that he kind of just lets the offensive alpha out. Like whoever wants to take over, as long as you're scoring the ball, I don't give a damn. He's this guy that's playing Derrick Rose even after his injuries. Minnesota, he went back to playing him 36, 38 minutes, and he couldn't help himself. So during the regular season, I think Randall's going to be a guy that as long as he's scoring the ball and there's nobody else kind of taking over that lead scoring role, that we'll be playing a lot because I just think he's going to get more minutes than we've ever seen. As far as preseason goes, I expect Obi Toppin to play a lot. I know they've said a lot about his conditioning. He set some kind of record for some sort of conditioning. Apparently, he's in really good shape cardiovascular-wise, so I expect Tibbs to push him and kind of see what he's got. I know there's been talk of where he's going to play, and it sounds like a mix between the 3 and the 4. I think Mitch Rob will get a pretty good opportunity. The foul trouble has obviously always been a thing holding him back, but I think with Tibbs, if Tibbs can get that under control, I think we will see Mitch Rob play a lot this year. They have Nerlens Noel, which I thought was kind of, there's rumors around the NBA that he likes Nerlens Noel a little bit more, and like he's not in great favors with Mitch Robinson, but there's also rumors that that's not true and that he loves Mitch Rob. So I think for preseason purposes, he's going to at least get his crack. So I do like Mitchell Robinson. I like Obi, and I like RJ Barrett a ton, like you said. I think whether it's, regardless of where he plays, I think he'll be playing a lot. Another young guy, they want to see what he's got. They want him to develop, and there's not a lot of time to get that done with a new system. So I do like the Knicks. And again, going forward on a season-long outlook, like for the rest of the season, regular season, Keep in mind, this is probably a team, like in the past, the problem with the Knicks has always been the coach not playing certain guys more than 30 minutes. We'll probably we're assuming we're going to have the opposite issue. They are fairly deep, right? Like a lot of their point guards aren't separated by very much, and they got a lot of young guys. They got like Spellman out of nowhere, like all these random players. But again, you just go off the coaching tendencies and Tips' tendencies to push his guys. What about on the Detroit side?
Yeah, so Detroit, their same head coach as last year again. I believe he's been there 2 years as well. He played his starters like under 20 minutes. It was Drummond. It was, I think, Reggie Jackson at the time, Blake Griffin. They all got like 15 to 18 minutes in their first game. I think these kind of teams are opportunities. I think, people are going to see that and kind of write off Detroit. They're playing the Knicks, a slow team, and there's not many guys you really want to play. But, um, if I was building one team, then yeah, I wouldn't have a ton of Detroit. But in MME, like these are going to be your opportunities to win a tournament because there's 3 games. Like he may say, "Fuck it, I'm going to play these guys 30 minutes," and you're going to get them at low ownership. And they are playing the Knicks, who are terrible, somewhat terrible defensively. They're probably going to be pretty tough down low, but on the outside, they're not going to be good. So this guy Killian Hayes, they picked like 6th or 7th in the first round. He's their starting point guard. People are very impressed with him. He's kind of like good all around, good defensively, can pass the ball, can shoot the ball. He's big. He's 4'4". He's probably going to be one of the chalkier plays on the slate. But if you're coming here, I think you want to get on board with that. Blake Griffin's fine at 5'3". That's a crazy cheap price for such a high usage guy. And then it gets kind of ugly, but I think there's opportunity. Like they got some guys that, are very good point per minute and very cheap. So we got Mason Plumlee, who's looking like the starting center here. He's never really gotten that type of role, at least not for a long time. Maybe a couple games he started when he was out in Portland. At 4'5", he was a guy that we would play at that price on some slates because someone was out that would kind of boost his minutes when he was in Denver. So I think it's interesting. I think if you get 30 minutes, you could see 30, 35 DraftKings points, double-double, that kind of thing. They've got Sekou Doumbouya at 4'3". People say he's like a young Giannis Antetokounmpo. Very, very raw, but a guy that, I think that they want to figure out if he's for real or not, similar to like Pascal Siakam or something like that out in Toronto. Another high point per minute guy. Maybe if they do stay true to form and not play the starters all that much, he will get a lot of run against the second unit. So he's interesting. Jahlil Okafor, a huge point per minute guy. Coming off the bench, so he might not run into Mitch Robinson all that much. Jordan McRae, the backup point guard, massive point per minute guy as well. I think everybody, from Derrick Rose, not Derrick Rose, he's a vet. I don't see them pushing him, and he's too expensive. Killian Hayes, Sekou Doumbouya, Jahlil Okafor, Jordan McRae, and then even this is probably too deep, but Josh Jackson and Delon Wright expect well, okay, all somewhat viable, but Killian Hayes and Mason Plumlee with Blake Griffin are probably the 3 I'd like the most, but I will be that second unit batch of guys because there's a chance that they get more run than the first unit at this point.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Killian Hayes probably the one I'm most interested as well, mainly because Detroit wants to see what he's got. They already said he's going to be the starter. They said he has to earn it in camp, but they've already kind of said that, so I would assume that means they're going to take a long, hard look at him in the preseason. Plus, it's Derrick Rose. Now, there is speculation that Derrick Rose may get more minutes this season in general than he's been accustomed to last year with the Pistons, but in the preseason, I really don't see how that applies, so I fully expect Killian Hayes to get a bunch of minutes in that bitch. We will go on to the next game. We've got the Houston Rockets. This very weird situation. No more Westbrook, obviously. They now have John Wall. James Harden is expecting to be trading. He's expecting to be traded, right? But the Rockets recently made a statement about expecting him to show up and be a professional while they wait this thing out. So I don't know. Things are getting sketchy there. No D'Antoni anymore. Paulie, what you got on the Rockets, man?
Yeah, so like because Harden didn't come to practice, I think he didn't get his COVID test, so he's not going to play regardless. He's already ruled out. Um, but this is one where like I really want to know the status of a few people like Boogie Cousins, who is projected to be the backup center. Depending how healthy he is, even when he was, on the Lakers and barely playing, when he did get minutes, he was productive, and he's 4'8", and we should get some sort of word by tomorrow on how many minutes. But if you get 20 minutes, he's in play. He could go for 35 in 20 minutes, especially against the Bulls. They're terrible against big. Christian Wood, I think, is going to be one of the more popular plays on the slate. He is priced up at 7.5, and the Rockets have a coach named Scott Silas. He has never been a head coach before. He was most recently an assistant with the Dallas Mavericks, who did play their younger guys. They pretty much were all young on that team last year. Considerable minutes in the first game. So I think he kind of follows suit. Again, they don't have much time to get ready for the regular season. They want to get some reps with Wall, Christian Wood, Boogie Cousins. And with Harden out, I think Eric Gordon just does the usual Eric Gordon with Harden out thing and takes a ton of shots, scores a lot of points. He's 4-3. He's one of my favorite players on the slate. Christian Wood, I'm fine with. I think he'll be a guy that, like, if Boogie is going to get 20 minutes, could be an interesting fade at his price at 7.5. But bigs against the Bulls, it's too juicy. Maybe you play both. And then with no Harden, unless we hear Wall's going to play less than 20 minutes, I think he's in play too. And again, like, the prices are so soft. You may have money left on the table. You're not really looking at this thing on a point per dollar. Like, yeah, it's 7-7. You're hoping a guy gets you a 40 in the regular season, but uh, 28 raw points might be, good enough on this slate, and you should have enough money to kind of get wherever you want. So I do like. I've seen tape of him practicing lately. He looks awesome, and I think he's been waiting almost 2.5 years to prove he's still got it. Now he's on a new team, and he probably wants to look good. So James Harden's like, maybe I should stay and, help keep this team competitive. Christian Wood should be very popular. I'm interested in playing Boogie as long as we know he's going to get like 20 minutes and he's pretty healthy. And then you got guys and then Eric Gordon's one of my favorite plays on the slate at 4-3. And I think he'll go for 30 points with Harden now.
Yeah, I mean, this is a big makeover of this team. New coach. We're expecting new stars in this. John Wall's going to get an opportunity to do this a preseason deal after not playing for 2 years. Boogie hasn't really played in 2 years. So we'll have to see how this goes. I don't know. I've hearing a lot of good things about Wall. Obviously, it's just kind of up in the air with minutes. Christian Wood, you would think, even because Wood is a guy that we've seen play the four at times, so I wouldn't be surprised if we saw him get some reps. Or at the very least, I expect him to play more than Boogie, just because he hasn't played. He's coming off an ACL, right? And we know he's a point per minute guy. Good matchup against the Bulls. At least we would think. I guess we'll find out. But yeah, I'm with you, man. This is gonna be like one that even if you're not playing a ton of these guys, you want to pay attention and see what the Rockets look like, because you're gonna have to get to know a whole new team essentially. And if they do have lineups where they go super big, even with John Wall, it's gonna be hard for them to play as fast as they played. So something to keep an eye on. What about the other side? What about the Chicago Bulls?
Yeah. Not a ton of changes here. Basically the same team they had last year. They drafted this dude, Patrick Williams, in the top 10. Kind of like a 3-4, Jeremiah Grant type, I guess. Or maybe even like a Thaddeus Young guy on the same team. But Zach LaVine, one of my favorite studs on the slate, against Houston, who does not have very many good defenders, the alpha on this team. Big year for Zach LaVine on the Bolts. Kobe White was impressive last year. Kind of streaky, but certainly showed the upside when his shot was falling. A little pricey. I don't mind working him in, but I would certainly be playing a lot more Levine over White. I like Lowry Markkinen a little bit because I think he's going to be very low owned, and he had a rough year last year, and a lot of it was because like his peripherals kind of disappeared, and you know he knows this, and they've been talking about it all off season. Now they want to kind of um, you know bring that back to his game and have him be aggressive. So I could see a world where he just kind of balls out. I expect these guys to play around 30 minutes as well. They got rid of like their defensive players like Chris Dunn and um, other guy whose name I forget, who would be like he was like point guard and small forward eligible, and would always be like min price and like start when guys were out. You know what I'm talking
Shaq
about?
Harrison.
Jack Harrison, yeah. Those were the two like defensive specialists, and the Bulls actually weren't terrible defensively. They played slow, and I think that's going to change this year. I think we're going to see them play faster. I think that not that I think I know that they have a new coach named Billy Donovan from OKC. He played his young guys around 30 minutes on the Thunder last year, and this is all they got. So I think we see 30 to 35 minutes. New coach, wanting to see these guys play so he can figure out how to utilize them in the regular season. You got Wendell Carter at 4.7, another really nice value play on the slate. Otto Porter at 4.6, back from injury. Potential for him to have some sort of limitation on his minutes, so keep an eye on that. Thomas Satoransky at 4.5. Don't mind that. With no Chris Dunn kind of causing that traffic jam there. It's like if Kobe White's struggling, they'll probably just go to Satoransky, or if they're getting beat up by John Wall, they'll bring in Satoransky, former teammate. And then Denzel Valentine is a nice little value play with no Shaq Harrison and Dunn, and he should. They gave him a contract like 3 or 4 years. I forget what the money.
He's out with a hamstring.
Denzel's out.
Yeah. Him and Temple are both out. Denzel has a hamstring injury. He's expected to miss the first 2 preseason games.
All right, cool. So that kind of helps bolster the fact that the starters should get good minutes because now some of the direct backups are out. So I love Levine, one of my highest owned players, most likely. I'm cool with Marketing. I think he's like a sneaky guy to add into those builds. And then Wendell Carter or Daniel Gafford, cheap value center.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see Kobe White, see if he takes another leap. There's obviously the opportunity of the sophomore slump thing, but he's going to get the opportunity. I think they're kind of handing him the keys here. Didn't bring back Dunn, as you mentioned. We know Donovan is another one of those coaches that he'll find his best few players typically and kind of keep them locked in. We saw what he did for years with OKC. So yeah, there's usually a 6-man involved heavily in his rotation. So we'll have to see what his approach is. But I'm excited to see what Kobe White can do. 6'9" on a preseason slate is a little scary, but I do think, like you said, I think a lot of these starters are going to get some run. And I think that they will stagger, at least at times, White and Levine. I do expect them to kind of stagger them throughout the season because they are 2 guys that could score from the perimeter if need be. But yeah, Wendell Carter looking pretty good. We just look at the Houston bigs, and we don't expect Boogie to play a ton. So, holla at your boy. All right, what about the Clippers-Lakers? Starting with the Clipper side, they just gave Paul George a max contract. Playoff P? Yeah, no? Preseason P. Maybe it's preseason P, bro.
I don't know. As of last night, I did not see a status on Kawhi or Paul George. I think it's like 50-50. I don't know if you see anything there, whatever you were looking at, but they did add Serge Ibaka. They did lose Montrezl Harrell. They added Luke Kennard. They added Nick Batum. I don't know if that's significant or not. But for the most part, very similar team. Played deep into the playoffs. I don't think these guys get a ton of minutes. Zubac, I think, is an interesting play. Reggie Jackson, I think, is an interesting play. Luke Kennard is an interesting play. And then a Terrence Mann off the bench. We saw in their last regular season game in the bubble, Terrence Mann went bananas for like 50 DraftKings points. Like he did it in summer league, he did it in last year's preseason. When he gets minutes, he balls out. And I wouldn't be shocked if Kawhi or Paul George or both got rested. And even if they do play, I don't expect it to be a ton with how much load management they did with Kawhi. So I think it's like the secondary and young group. They also have a new head coach, Tyronn Lue. Last time he coached was back in 2018 with, I think it was the Cavs. Check my note. Yeah, with the Cavs. And his first preseason game there, he played like everybody 18 to 20 minutes, like 12 guys deep. So um, it would only be the young value guys that I'm really interested. Zubac, Reggie Jackson, Luke Kennard, Terrence Mann.
Yeah, I agree. I don't expect Lou to play his two stud guys too much, especially considering this team is one of the teams, them and the Lakers both, that played really deep, obviously. So yeah, I don't expect too many starters, or at least veteran starters from these teams to play. I would also stick with the younger guys. What about the Lakers side? I mean, like it was the same thing with LeBron and AD. We're not really sure, right? But we don't expect a ton, right?
They're not expected to play
Okay.
already, right? They haven't been officially ruled out, but their notes say not expected to play. I'd be shocked if they played it. They played all the way in the final. It feels like it was like a month ago that they just won the championship. So um, new additions: Dennis Schroeder. I do think will play a lot. Montrezl Harrell, Kyle Kuzma, Dion Waiters, Alex Caruso. Those are the guys I like the most. Marcus Hall's also a new addition. He's not going to play a lot. He's a dinosaur at this point. Wesley Matthews is getting pretty old. Uh, but Schroeder, he's 6'8". I kind of hope that price pulls people off. I think he'll get around 30 minutes because, Gasol, AD, LeBron, they're already going to be missing bodies. But there's a lot of new faces that they need to kind of get some familiarity with. So Kuzma, LeBron saying he's going to win most improved player of the year or something. Dion Waiters, we know these are the situations he loves. Bruder, Montrezl Harrell, he's probably got something to prove. His role really got diminished last year from the year before. And, now he's got a chance to win a championship. And I'm sure he wants to kind of solidify his role as either a sixth man or possibly a starter next to AD. So I do like those guys with LeBron and AD off. Obviously everyone's getting a big usage boost. I do like the Lakers side quite a bit.
Yeah, I think Kuzma, like you said, this is one of the rare opportunities that he gets throughout the season to shine without LeBron or AD on the court, because they've really done a number on his usage. He's really cheap also. I expect him to play a lot. Schroeder, man, I expect him to get a lot of run also. He's another one, right? We don't expect him to play all that much. He's kind of taken over the Rajon Rondo role. So I think it's going to be back and forth depending on where they want to play LeBron. And so I think in the preseason without LeBron, they'll want to see what he's got and see how he runs the offense and take a look at him. So I think Schroeder is 6'8", one of the more expensive plays on the slate, but I think there's a reason for that. I think it's because he probably will play a good amount. But yeah, Kuzma and him are probably my favorites. Montrez, early revenge. He'll get an opportunity during the season. Early revenge, man. Apparently they didn't think. I know Harrell had felt like they didn't want him enough or something, right? Like he felt kind of slighted a little bit.
They barely played him last year.
Yeah.
It didn't make sense.
Yeah. Sucking. Last game,
Yep.
Kings Portland. We'll start off with the Kings.
Yeah. So if you look back to last year, the Kings played their starters 35 minutes in the first game. That game did go to overtime, and it was really close, so that's a little bit skewed. But still, even getting them into the 30s was one of the highest amounts in that first game. Same coach, Luke Walton. He's kind of known for doing that, playing his guys a lot. They just gave De'Aaron Fox a ton of money. They lost Bogdan, so Buddy Hield most likely moves back into the starting lineup. They did get Hassan Whiteside, but as of right now, the talk is he's going to be coming off the bench. Harry Barnes led the NBA in minutes the last few years or over the last 3 years, but really is never very fantasy relevant. Marvin the Bagman is still going to be out, recovering from the injury. So Bielitsa most likely starts at the 4. Rayshawn Holmes, the guy they're saying that's going to start at center, big point per minute guy. And Supposedly Jabari Parker is looking like he's 5 years younger and dominating again in practice so far. So he's an interesting guy. But love Fox, love Hield. Really like the Sacramento team. They're the last game of the night, late night hammer. I don't think Portland will match the minutes with their starters, although I'd love that, and there is a chance for it. But give me Fox, give me Hield, give me Rayshawn Holmes, and I will mix in some Bielitsa and Jabari Parker as well.
Yeah, I was just looking at Jabari Parker at 4,200. Seems like a good opportunity as any for him to get some minutes. Even if Whiteside does play, they said he went through a heavy workout. He would be the one guy that I'd be a little reluctant to say that I expect him to play big minutes. But I agree with you on Fox and Hield and these other starters. Again, these guys got to get in the swing. They got to play. They don't have a ton of time. They got to get in shape, and I'm with it. And Bagley being out obviously helps when he comes back. That'll change some things. Yes. Yeah. What about Portland? Dame Dollar.
Yeah, so they did not play their starters much in the first game last year. Same coach. Nurkic is already ruled out. That is all I know in terms of ruled out. They did acquire Derrick Jones Jr., who they've already announced is going to start at the 3, which I was a little surprised by, but I think he's good enough too. And he is one of my favorite value plays on the slate. I will have some Lillard and McCollum, but they kind of ran out of steam last year, and I expect them not to play a ton. I think the rest will be more important for this team and staying healthy. And they dealt with a lot of injuries last year. And with Nurkic already out, I think the coach is going to really look more to the second unit, the young guys. Robert Covington, also a new addition, a very good addition for this team. But it's Gary Trent, it's Anthony Simons. Oh, Zach Collins is also injured, ruled out. Another addition is Enes Kanter. With Nurkic out, he becomes probably the chalkiest value center or value play on the slate at 4-1. Going up against Sacramento, who doesn't defend bigs very well. Like Enes Kanter a lot, like Anthony Simons, like Gary Trent, and I love Derrick Jones. If I had a lock column in my article, it would be Derrick Jones.
Derrick Cheesy. I actually think we might have room for something like that. Wink, wink. But little hedge/leverage. Hedge/revenge would be the Harry Giles over the Enes Kanter.
Yes.
Right? Revenge opportunity. Kanter's over there. When, like you said, Nurkic is out. As far as centers go, I see Enes Kanter, Harry Giles, Moses Brown. I would think Harry Giles maybe is above Moses Brown, though I don't know that.
Yes.
But yeah, $100 cheaper. I agree with you. I think Kanter is going to be the most popular play on the value play on the slate, being that he's 4,100 on DraftKings and against in a good matchup. So I think that makes sense. Other than that, I think like Anthony Simons, like you said, Derrick Jones, those kind of players. I'm staying away from the true veteran starters on this team. Follow my coaching tendencies. But obviously, we're doing the show on Thursday to kind of get things going, sharing with you guys the things that we expect. Friday is going to be key, the day of, waiting for injury news. We will have Paulie D's NBA DFS Fast Break available to WiseTake.com subscribers. I'll show you guys a little sample of what that'll look like. 1 second. Bang. Oh, I fucked that up. Oh, holla at you. Hold up.
We were going to call it the Thug Life sheet.
The Thug Life sheet, yeah. But
the Fast Break ended up winning in the final tally.
Yeah. Dirty McDirts. But anyway, Nation, this is an idea of what it's going to look like. So you can see here we've got the top studs, top mid-tier, top value plays. Paulie will also be specifying if it's specifically a DraftKings or FanDuel play. If there's no color coding around it, it just means he's a good play on either site. We've got a cash game core section. We'll give you up to 4 cash game core players, and he'll write in quick one-liners as to why. Same thing with the GPP core. We have a section for top game stacks. The bust of the day, and the biggest one is this injuries column here. Going into it, obviously, when the season starts, our pre-lock live stream will be behind our paywall for WiseTake Nation subscribers. So at that point, we're going to be getting the news and updating the nation live on the show. So this column kind of will tell you the key injury news that we're waiting for going into that show. But this will be available. We're going to be doing this for the preseason as a test run. So Paulie will have this up for you guys tomorrow or Friday, because some of you might be listening to this on Friday. And that's it. From here on out, it's following the beat writers, trying to gather as much information as we can on minutes for these guys and doing dirty. So appreciate those of you hanging out with us while we do this quick NBA show. We'll be back tonight. If you're watching this on Thursday, that is. We'll be back tonight with the Showdown Thursday Night Football action. And then, of course, Friday night, we got the NFL Y stream for Week 14. It's double fisting time. NBA, NFL, it is officially time. Paulie, anything in closing before we get up out of here?
I mean, after that closing, how do I follow that? But yeah, NBA, money season, dirty season. NBA is all about staying abreast of the news. And we're going to lead you right up in the lock like we did last year. I think we had a lot of success with that. So we're going to do it again and see you tomorrow.
Absolutely. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Make sure you subscribe. For Paulie D, for myself, the entire WiseTake Nation, as always, good luck.
Yeah.